Hello, Lemonade Legends listeners out there. This is Michelle Faust, and I am excited to be here today. It's wonderful in this time of social distancing that we can still engage and we can still be a part of each other's lives through podcasting and other internet opportunities. So that's how I'm making my lemonade out of this bitter lemon that's hitting all of us right now. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce our guest today, Debbie Delgado. I'm so happy that you could join us today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
I'm excited to have you. We've had some different conversations, just personal conversations. So I know a little bit, but this is really kind of a discovery call for me too, because we haven't really gotten in depth of it about your story, except that you're willing to share it. Put your vulnerable self out there and you just be real and authentic with our listeners, which is all we really look for. Any tips that come out of your story, it helps our listeners as well to figure out how to navigate, their situation. So before we start just a discussion, take a minute, if you will, and just kind of introduce, who you are, what you're about, and just, any sneak peek of what you're going to talk about. Then we'll delve into it.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Debbie Delgado, and I have a business called debbiedelgado.com. And I've had an interesting, winding journey that has touched into a lot of dark places. As one of my mentors said, you like to live life on the dark side a little bit. So I think that's why Michelle was attracted to me for this particular show. But I live in Eugene, Oregon, and there's a little bit of a story to that, which we might touch into. And I actually help women really tap into their soul gifts and their own unique soul makeup in order to create lives and businesses that they love. So, and it's been kind of an interesting journey of how I got there from where I started. My business has taken a lot of interesting twists and turns, and I'm thrilled to be here today. The topic, well, we've got a couple of topics that we might be touching on. We had talked about one of the things that I've gone through is estrangement from my children, and I actually have not spoken publicly a lot about that. So this is, you guys are getting the premiere on that. And of course, in the interim, when we decided to do this interview, and between then and now, all of this other stuff happened. Yeah. And so, we can touch on that a little bit as well, because shortly after I started my business, the 2008 recession hit. And so I was in the very beginning stages of business when that all happened, and actually found a way to make lemonade out of that one. So, and then as I thought about the two scenarios and some of the other things that have happened in my life, there are some common threads as far as how I've, handled things, I guess. Things I've discovered.
Yeah. So great. And just so you know, now that you said this is sort of your first release of information on your estrangement, I'm going to be talking to you about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what, and that's what
that was kind of the initial thing, but yeah. And so yeah, we kind of talked about your dark side a little bit too. And so I'm bringing all this bright yellow into your life.
Yes, I see that. I love that. You're wearing yellow as well.
Yes, yellow is my color now. So anyways, thank you for that introduction of yourself. So it was great, and it kind of sets the stage for what we are going to talk about. And in particular, I know that my followers are my people who really are interested in the lemon to lemonade story, really looking for the tips. So, the fact that you were able to say, you went through the 2008 recession, and there are common things that you use to get through your bitter lemon time. So I think that's a great place to start. So, where was your business at in 2008? And let's just talk about some of the things that helped you to survive that time.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I honestly didn't just survive that time, but I actually ended up thriving in my business. Um, but I was in the very early stages of business. I had left the corporate world. I left a very great job in the corporate world in 2006 to start a coaching business. And I kind of took my time a little bit the first year or so, but in 2008, the recession hit, and I was still in that early growth stage, and people started freaking out. And I decided that I wasn't actually going to participate in the recession. And so I just continued to do what I was doing and grow my business. And I actually ended up evolving my business. I saw the opportunity with the panic. And the opportunity was for me to start helping people with the topic of abundance and living abundantly and creating abundantly. And so I, learned all I could about that topic. And actually my business for the next few years focused on helping people create abundance in their lives. But the core of that, Michelle, for me, and this is kind of one of the common themes with everything that I've gone through in my life, is the choice and the decision part. And sometimes, I don't know, when things get chaotic for a minute or sometimes forever, it's really easy for us to forget that our choice, right?
Yeah, you're right, and we do have choices, without a doubt. And sometimes the choices, we have more boundaries around them than other times. But I think that is an important thing to remember. And one of the things that has been a recent experience for me is the choice to create my own mindset. In other words, nobody can control what goes on in here.
Exactly.
That's where I can fit in. And I'm interested in hearing you talk more about the creating your life of abundance, because I still struggle with that. I get very focused, just as we were talking before we started. I try not to look at the stock market, but I kind of can't help it. And then, when you have those days where the money is just not flowing in, it's really hard to switch your mind around. So I would really like to hear your thoughts on how you create that mindset of abundance.
Yeah, well, and you started a little bit of it with, you're the thinker. You're the thinker in there. And sometimes we get into habitual thoughts and we think that we have no control over them, but we actually do. So, part of this, it's interesting because, I've been teaching abundance for years. And one of the first principles of abundance sounds so weird to be talking about with abundance. And it's actually responsibility. And, you don't think of the abundance seems all woo woo and, out there. And then responsibility seems like it's a head thing. But, the very first step when I'm teaching abundance is that we can only become conscious creators when we first choose and decide that we are 100% responsible for all of our results. And although that feels scary to people, it's actually very powerful when you step into that place. Like, I am the cause of my own results. So I teach a lot of universal law and universal truth. And anytime you're talking about being a conscious creator, you're working with the laws. And one of the laws is cause and effect. And for every effect, there is a cause. For every cause, there is an effect. What we don't realize is that we're the cause.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always, I say it in a little bit different way, but I've always said, we are in charge of our own destiny. And, obviously certain things can happen that we don't actually create, but we can still guide and navigate, you know, what that destiny looks like. And so that's really interesting that you put, you know, I'm making notes. I love that phrase, conscious creatures, create, conscious, what'd you say, conscious creation?
Yeah,
Conscious creators.
being conscious creators. Exactly.
I can't even read my own writing, but I like the phrasing of that because it brings to light that it is a conscious effort. And it is something that we have to really put a mindset toward. And the other comment I wanted to make as you were talking, what came to my mind is that it is very powerful to be in that seat, but as human, we are so quick to want to put blame on, you know, somewhere else, on somebody else. And, you know, that seems so easy. And so to me, if you start switching that around from easy to being powerful, that right there is a mindset shift.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm talking about moving from living reactively. Life is happening to me, and transitioning from that to I'm creating my world. And it can be scary for people because, you know, there's some safety, like you just said, in being a victim of life. Well, I can't do anything about it. It's just happening to me, you know, that kind of thing. Actually, people have started to feel safe with that. And, you know, you're seeing that right now with the mass panic. And like you said, there's two different camps of people almost, you know, those that are just at wit's end and those that are like, okay, where's the opportunity, you know? And that's the difference between those two camps is, you know, life is happening to me, or I'm going to go out there and create life. And yes, life happens. I mean, we are in the human third dimensional world. We've chosen to be here and to play in this realm. And, you know, so yeah, we're going to experience human stuff. And it's a matter of how do I want to, you know, respond to that? Do I want to react and just let things happen to me and then I'll try to survive? Or do I want to approach it a different way where I am creating and I'm looking for the opportunity and I'm choosing what I'm focusing on right now? Like you said, with the 401k thing, you know, I know. And in fact, you know, even facts back this up. This isn't just pure faith and truth, but you know, the records back it up as well. The stock market always comes back. It has never not come back.
So here's our word. This is from Debbie and I. Don't sell. Right now,
sell.
first time to sell.
buy if you can. You know, buy low, sell high. This is a buying opportunity. If you do happen to have some spare cash sitting around, this is the time to buy. But the difference is letting those numbers on the screen dictate how you be, how you feel, how you think, or you consciously looking at the numbers on the screen and knowing they're numbers. Unless you're pulling your money out today for your retirement, it doesn't matter. It's not real anyway until you go to pull it out. So there are some people that maybe need to pull it out now. And for them, it's a different story. But for the rest of us, and you know, your listeners are business owners, retirement accounts are based on people who work jobs that they hate and hope to someday quit working.
Isn't that the truth, though? Yeah, I think as business owners and entrepreneurs, we tend to not even think about retiring because we're doing the things that we love. So what else would we be doing if we retired?
Exactly. So why would we be scared by a number in our retirement account when most of us have no intention of retiring? I mean, most of us want to, choose to work until we drop, right?
Right. That's why we're doing it the way we're doing it. And you know, it's funny because so many entrepreneurs, and you said it earlier, and it's so true, have left these really cushy, wonderful, well-paying, good benefits corporate jobs. You know, so I think the point to that is we've already been in scary positions. It was scary just leaving our corporate job.
You know, in a way that's true. And then when you go to higher truth, I feel much safer than somebody in a corporate job because I know how to create money. People who get a paycheck every 2 weeks do not know how money is created unless they're in the sales department in that company. They think money comes in an envelope, or magically arrives in your bank account. They have no idea how money is created. So I feel now I am in a much more secure position because I know how to create money. Even if my business folded, in order to have a business, you have to know how to sell. I could go sell for anybody and make money. There will never not be an opportunity for that. Versus when I worked in a company and I was not connected to the sales area at all, if I got laid off, I wouldn't have known how to create money. So we have learned a skill that makes us secure, but there's this myth out there that people in the corporations are actually secure. It's not true. We've all known companies that have closed and people that have gotten laid off and not known what to do, or people that have lost their family wealth and they don't know how to recreate it. So, again, that's all perspective too.
Yeah, and you know, I even personally know some people who lost their jobs within the last 30 days or so, and that's the worst time in terms of trying to get back into a corporate position. So nobody's hiring right now. So they'd be better off to try to put their thinking caps on, become creative, conscious creators, and you might as well, because if nobody's setting up interviews and if nobody's hiring right now, you might as well use your time and your energy to try to see what opportunity you can create for yourself.
And it's interesting you just said that, because that's one of the common threads that I've seen as I've gone through different things in my own life, is how you use your time and energy during those crisis periods, right?
Are you going to tell me I'm not allowed to go hide under my covers?
Well, that's one choice. It really is. I mean, we are here and we've been given free will and choice, so we can choose whatever we want. However, there will be different effects and, consequences of every choice that we make.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, so I mean, if you want to transition into the other story, this might be a good time to do.
I'll take that as a segue. So, and again, I really don't know too much about this story. So I really, I'm turning it over to you to tell in what within your comfort zone, to talk about your kids and really what happened. Like I said, share with us what you will.
Okay. All right. So I have never been married, but I had a partner for 20 years. And we had 2 children, and we were a little family. Everybody, we were married without being married. And we were together 20 years. We had a 17 and a 19-year-old boy and girl. And I had been unhappy in the relationship probably, I was thinking about it today, I would say for at least 10 years. And like many women, I stayed in the relationship for the kids. And I was, trying to tough it out until they both got into college, but really my soul was dying. I wasn't fulfilled by the relationship. One of the interesting things about the story is that my partner and I got along fine. I would almost say it was almost like more like a brother and sister kind of relationship. It was all centered around the kids. And some of your listeners can probably relate to this. We had been together a pretty short time when I got pregnant with my first child. So we were basically a couple for about 9 months before I got pregnant. And then the rest of the 20 years, so over 19 years, our identity was as parents.
Yeah.
And there was no couple. And even if you look at pictures of us, it would be the parents on the outside, the kids on the inside, right? Versus other families, like the parents are always standing together. So we were the kind of family where the kids were the glue, the kids were the middle, the kids were the center. So I made it till they were 17 and 19. And my son was in college, he was 19, and my daughter was still in high school. And I kept getting sick, physically sick, and all of the things that happen to you when you're really unhappy. And you know, I literally felt like I was, like my soul was dying and I was gonna die too. So I let my partner know, you know, that I wanted to end it. And when we told our children, well, they were 17 and 19, the kids freaked out. I mean, freaked out. It was like screaming and crying and hysteria, and you know, and these are kids like everybody else that half their friends' parents are divorced, and something happened in that family meeting that I think might have kind of set the stage, where my partner did not support the decision in front of the children. As my friends say, I got thrown under the bus, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And that was 6 years ago. And after that, I moved out of the house. It had been my partner's home initially. So I left. I rented a beautiful home just down the road with plenty of space for my kids, so that they could be in both places. They never came. So I literally had a condo. It was a very large condo, and a whole floor of it I had gotten for the kids. It sat empty for 2 years. They never came. So it's been 6 years now. There have been a few times when I thought it was going to change, and then it's reverted back. I do see my children because they go to like Christmas. I see them at Christmas because the whole family's together. But other than that, they do not respond to my texts or calls. There's just nothing that happens in between those times. So it's been 6 years now. And I've, you know, kind of recently discovered there are a lot of parents in this situation right now. I had no idea. It's always like until you're in one of these situations, you have no idea that this is happening to so many people. But it was, I gotta tell you, like, oh, you know, especially that first year, oh, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Well, yeah, my heart goes out to you, and especially your willingness to share. But one of the reasons I do what I do is because what you just said, you had no idea that you're not alone, that there are people out there. And sometimes people just really, they do suffer in silence, you know, thinking that, you know, it's just me. But, you know, it's not. And one of the things that I've really learned is that in all relationships, it's not one person, you know, it's everyone involved. So it's your partner who didn't support you, it's your kids who have made their choices, and, you know, whether they want to decide, with their dad. It's all those things. And I think it's really, really courageous when you're able to step out of that and say, okay, my lemon, what am I going to do
Mhm.
about it?
Yeah.
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 And, as hard as it is, if you don't shift your mindset into a positive way and say, it's okay, it's okay that my kids are going to choose to do that. I'm going to be okay though.
Hmm. Yeah. It's it would be very easy to just crawl into a hole at that point.
Yeah.
And there were a few months where I was just a wreck. Especially living right down the road, like knowing, they're right there and I'm right here and nothing. It was really, really tough. And yeah, I mean, it could have gone either way, but like you said, it's kind of a decision. Like, what, do I want to roll up, curl in a ball and die here, or do I want to go on? And I chose to go on, and it's really interesting because I told you I've played on the dark side a lot. A lot of my personal self journey has been about self love,
Mhm.
and I'm a healer. I'm a coach. I'm a healer. And some of us do choose to experience quite dramatic things in our quest maybe to help other people in big ways. And I think that's been the case with me. Um, and I already knew that, one of my life themes was self love. And what bigger self love lesson can there be than to have the very beings that came out of your body reject you?
Oh, you're killing me here.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I
So,
can't imagine that. Oh,
like talk about a big self-love challenge, right?
well,
People that I created hate me. So yeah, that was a biggie for me. I was like, okay, I can get through this one. I'm doing pretty good. So I felt sorry for myself for a bit. And but I pretty quickly turned to like, what's the opportunity here? And that's one of my go-to strategies. And I'm sure it is for a lot of your people. You're talking about lemons to lemonade, right? So one of the shifts involved in that every time is, what's the opportunity? And I have always been, I am a self-growth addict. I tease people, like, the reason I was teaching people how to make money for a while, and the reason I make money is so I can afford my self-growth habits.
yeah, they can be expensive, can't they?
They can be very expensive, especially the ones I tend to choose. So, I turned in that direction pretty quickly, and it's been really interesting. And I was thinking about it, getting ready, to talk to you about my story, like just the dominoes that you could never predict. Um, and so I had all this time, and I've always been I'm an introvert, even though I do public speaking and coaching and workshops. I am an introvert. Like, I recharge by myself. I like to spend a lot of time alone. Well, all of a sudden I had more time than I had had in 20 years to myself to decide. I got to decide what to do with literally every minute of the day. There were no kids, no games, no school stuff. So all of a sudden I had this abundance of time. And I decided to start using it to, indulge my self growth habit even more. And it's interesting because at the time, a lot of my mentors and coaches, there was a common connection from all of them where they kept mentioning this woman's name, that they had done this certain process with her. and she was a scientific hand reader. And I started thinking about the fact that all of these people I look up to had worked with her in some way. And so I decided to hire her. And she told me that one of the many things she told me was that I had this hidden gift that I had never tapped into. And it was reading the Akashic Records. And I had only heard the term before. I just knew enough to be dangerous. But I decided, I paid this woman the big bucks to have this reading, and I'm going to listen to what she says. So I very quickly hooked up with one of the top teachers of the Akashic Records, and then I started studying with her and started offering that kind of work. It's called soul realignment and manifesting design to my coaching clients, and they ate it up, and it opened up this whole new business for me of a way of helping people. And I realized looking back, like none of this would have happened without that event. Like nothing I wouldn't have been prompted into that. And I mean, it's been amazing for my business, my life. I've helped so many people, but it all, it all happened in an interesting way. And then after that, after my kids, I told you I had this beautiful home, and 2 years it sat kind of empty, waiting for them. All of a sudden I decided, they can hate me no matter where I live. So I had lived in Illinois. I was in central Illinois. You were talking about Chicago earlier. I was 2 hours from Chicago. And I had lived my whole life there. And I was, so I'm 55 now, so I would have been 49. And all of a sudden I started thinking, like, I don't want to have lived my whole, like, I don't want to die having lived in only one place.
Yeah.
I thought, what a sad life. So all of a sudden I was free, like I could move wherever I wanted. And there was nothing to stop me. So I was traveling at the time for my business, and I had a conference in San Diego. And I decided to check out a few places while I was in that part of the country. And I ended up renting a condo for a week in Seattle and a condo for a week on the Columbia River in Oregon. And I fell in love with Oregon. And so after this happened with my kids, I decided I'm going to pick up and move. And that has been an incredible experience for me, because I don't know if any of your listeners have experienced this, but when I drove my stuff into Oregon, I felt at home for the first time in my life. And I never realized I had lived almost 50 years of my life, actually over 50 by that point, in a place where I never felt at home.
I know. Yeah, I totally get that. In that, well, I was raised basically in Arizona, but then through a job transfer, spent 7 years in Chicago, a suburb of Chicago. And we're not bad-mouthing Illinois here, but we're talking about where you're comfortable. And one of the things that I realized is Arizona was where I feel home. And so I totally get it, because it just, when I made the decision to move back after my divorce, I was going home. I was going to the place where my heart felt good and my soul felt good. Yeah, and so yes, a place does matter.
Exactly. You know exactly what I'm saying. And again, none of this would have happened without that initial thing with my kids.
Yeah.
So now I have spent 4 or 5 years living in a place where I finally feel at home. and I love it here. And interestingly enough, I was a dancer years ago. In college, I started dancing. I joined a dance company after college for a few years. I ended up getting hurt and couldn't dance anymore. It was pretty rigorous, the dancing that I was doing. Thought I would never dance again. In my 50s in Oregon, I, by an odd chain of events, end up hooking up with this dance flash mob group. Start dancing with them. That leads to another dance opportunity. I'm now in a couple different dance companies and dance groups. In my 50s, when I thought I would never be able to dance again.
I love that.
And my soul, I mean, that is my happy place. You know, like dance is a healing, wonderful thing for me. I've met incredible people through that. I'm an introvert, so it's not easy for me to meet people socially. So that opened the door to all these other incredible, amazing, beautiful dance people that I, you know, have made friends with. That's my social circle. All of these things that have made my life better have grown from, you know, things that I never expected them to. So, but part of it is the choice to live.
And so you are such a shining example of having your heart just ripped out to say, okay, I'm going to make life the best I can make it. And, you know, no one ever makes that choice to say, oh, well, you know, I want to have all the time in the world and I want to join dance groups and everything like that. It's just, but it's like, okay, I can't do anything about my kids. I can't do anything about that situation and that control. Here's what I'm going to do. And you just went for it. And that is, that's a really powerful story.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because if you think about it, so my kids are 23 and 25 now. They've both graduated from college. They've both moved away from Illinois. So they're in 2 different states. Even if I wasn't estranged from them, I would be on my own now. Well, maybe I would still be with their dad, but in any case, you know, there's that whole empty nest thing. So I mean, in a way, it's like I just experienced that earlier.
Yeah.
But you do see people that have a hard time with that even then they don't make the choice. Like it's your life again.
Exactly.
And your kids, you know, at some point don't really want that much interaction with you just naturally. So, so I guess I just, you know, did it a little bit earlier and, you know, in a little bit more painful circumstance, perhaps. Although I know parents that are just crushed when their kids, you know, move away and stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really fascinating to see how things happen. Now, if I would have just gone into a depression and given up, I wouldn't have said yes to any of that.
Right.
In fact, I may not have even been able to see those opportunities.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you don't tend to open your eyes up to it if, you know, be open to the possibilities if you want to just shut yourself off in victim mode. And I can't believe that we've spent this much time talking, and I feel like I could go on forever. You are really so. We got to figure out a way to continue this story because I think that you have a lot of great things to offer to people who are in those kind of struggling situations. I'm going to kind of recap a couple of things that I heard from you. One is obviously thinking in abundance. And how important that is. I also think that, and I love coaches. I have one myself. I've had others in my life, but it's hard to know who is going to fit with you or what you need. But what I really feel is a gift that you have and what you offer is being able to help people take care of their inner self, because my platform of Lemonade Legend is it's about storytelling, but it's about business too, because if you don't take care of your stuff, it's really hard to be successful. It's hard to think abundantly. It's hard to open your eyes to the opportunity. So that's how I see you, is that you're bringing self-love and energy and soul alignment so that people can jump off and be successful. And I think that's a great offering.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you want to know something fascinating is, again, I'm this interesting mixture of the woo and very grounded stuff.
Uh-huh.
So I'm also, I'm a sales expert. And most people don't think of the soul stuff and sales together.
Yeah.
But I've actually been able to combine that. And I actually do sales work for some other big companies, because that's such an in-demand kind of thing. And I love it. And I don't actually get to do much of that in my own business. I have a very loyal client base that just kind of eats up whatever I offer. So I've even taken that, the soul stuff, and combined it with something that people don't think of in that realm at all, which is, transformational selling.
Well, people do business with people they like and trust. And this is what I continually talk about under the Lemonade Legend umbrella, is that tell your story, be real and authentic, heal yourself, because that's what attracts people to you. I personally, I don't want to do business with the perfect person, because I can't relate to that.
Nobody does. Nobody does.
Yeah. So I personally think it really goes well, because if you're being your true authentic self, and if you're coming from, who you are, your inner soul is, you're going to sell all day long.
Exactly. Yeah.
This has been fascinating. I want to give you a chance, even though I will post your information for those who are maybe listening on the podcast only, just let us know how we can find you.
Yeah, so probably the best way to find me is my website, DebbieDelgado.com.
Okay.
And I've got a blog area in there with lots of articles and some recordings that people can tune into, and a lot of people's experiences with the kind of soul work that I do with them. And yeah, that's the best place to find me. And gosh, it's been a pleasure. And as you know, I have some other stories we can share another time if you wish.
We will. We haven't heard the last from you. You haven't heard the last from me, because I think there's a lot of things that we still need to talk about. So we will. And next time I'm in Oregon, I'm going to come see you dance.
Oh yes, we dance all over the place. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
I think that's so cool. So anyways, we've kind of gone a little bit over our time, but that's a good thing, because that means that we had a pretty stimulating conversation. So I hope all my followers and listeners and viewers have enjoyed this podcast with Debbie, and I know I have. And thank you so very much for being a part of it. And for now, I'm going to sign off until the next one, and wish you all a very, very safe and, a lot of wellness and happiness and abundance in your life. So goodbye for now until we talk again. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.